My father pointed a steak knife at me across a crowded restaurant and said the words that would cost him everything. "You're nothing but a parasite, Emily. A worthless leech." My mother just laughed and raised her wine glass like she was toasting my humiliation. What they didn't know was that their worthless daughter had just been accepted to Stanford with a full scholarship. What they really didn't know, I was about to become their worst nightmare. The restaurant was packed that Saturday evening. Families celebrating birthdays, couples on date nights, children laughing over dessert. I had chosen this place specifically because it was our family's favorite, thinking they'd want to make this moment special. The acceptance letter had arrived just 3 days earlier, and I couldn't wait to share the news. A full ride to Stanford University. Something I'd dreamed about since I was 12 years old. I thought they'd invited my friends out to celebrate my Stanford acceptance. Instead, it was an execution, public, brutal, and calculated. "So what's your brilliant plan now, Emily?" Dad sneered, loud enough for neighboring tables to stare. "Philosophy. Might as well study underwater basket weaving." His voice carried across the dining room, and I watched other diners turn to look at us with curiosity and discomfort. Mom clinked her wine glass and announced, "Cheers to our little dreamer who thinks she's too good for us now." She was already on her 3rd glass of Chardonnay, and her words were starting to slur slightly. My best friend Camila, who had been so excited to celebrate with us, tried defending me. "Mr. Nolan, Emily worked incredibly hard for this. Stanford only accepts." But Dad cut her off with a glare so venomous that even my outspoken friend went silent. "Don't tell me about my own daughter," he snarled. "This little parasite has been bleeding us dry for 18 years, living like a queen while we foot every bill. Isn't that right, honey?" He turned to Mom, who nodded enthusiastically. "Oh, absolutely. Our Emily takes the cake when it comes to entitlement." Matt, my classmate who had driven with Camila, looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. The couple at the table next to us had stopped eating entirely and were staring in shock. I felt heat creeping up my neck, but I refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break down in public. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, staring at my untouched risotto, making a promise that would haunt them forever. That night, I discovered the cruel game they'd been playing for years. Stanford needed housing forms signed. Forms I knew they'd refuse to sign, not because they couldn't, but because they enjoyed watching me beg. They'd done this my entire life, dangling approval just far enough that I'd grovel for it, then laughing while I begged. The pattern had started when I was young. When I brought home my first A+ in 3rd grade, Dad had looked at it and said, "Don't let it go to your head, Emily. Pride comes before the fall." When I made honor roll in middle school, Mom's response was, "I bet someone cheated off you." Every achievement was minimized, every success questioned, every moment of pride crushed before it could take root. In high school, when I got my first part-time job at the local bookstore, Dad had literally said, "Finally, maybe now you'll earn your keep." I was 16 years old, working 15 hours a week while maintaining a 4.0 GPA and participating in debate club. But somehow, in their twisted logic, I was the problem. I was the burden. I was the leech sucking them dry. While packing to leave forever, I overheard my golden child brother Mason laughing with his girlfriend in the basement. "She actually thinks she's gonna make it out. Good luck surviving without mommy and daddy's fridge." Mason, the college dropout with 2 DUIs who stole from Mom's purse and lived in our basement rent-free. The sensitive boy, who could do no wrong while I was called a parasite for getting straight A's. Mason was 3 years older than me, and the contrast in how we were treated was staggering. When he crashed his car drunk at 19, Dad's response was, "Boys make mistakes. He'll learn from this." When he dropped out of community college after 1 semester, Mom said, "He's just finding himself. Not everyone is cut out for traditional education." When I caught him stealing $40 from Mom's wallet, they accused me of lying until he finally admitted it, and then they said I should mind my own business. That's when something inside me snapped. I realized I had spent my entire life trying to earn love that would never come, seeking approval from people who were fundamentally incapable of giving it. I moved in with Camila's family that very night, where her parents welcomed me with open arms. Her mother, Maria, brought me hot tea and said, "Sweetheart, you don't have to explain anything. You're safe here." For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. Her father, David, a financial advisor, noticed something my parents never did. I was brilliant with money. "I've never met a teenager who reads the Wall Street Journal during dinner," he said one evening as I absorbed articles about market trends and investment strategies. "I like watching where money hides," I replied, and something in my answer made him pause. He became the father figure I never had, teaching me about trusts, investments, tax strategies, and most importantly, power of attorney documents. David didn't just teach me about finance. He taught me about self-worth. "Emily," he said one evening after watching me flinch when Maria complimented my cooking, "you know you deserve kindness, right? You know you deserve to be celebrated when you succeed." I started crying right there at their kitchen table. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming relief of finally hearing someone say the words I'd needed my entire life. "Parents like yours think they're invincible," he said bluntly one day when I confided about my fears of running into my family. "But they rarely read the fine print. They make assumptions about their control that aren't always legally sound." That's when I remembered something crucial. Dad had put my name on his pension account when I was 16, back when he thought I might actually bring some pride to the family name. "A gift for when you get into a real college," he'd said mockingly at the time, never imagining I'd actually achieve something worthy of Stanford. He forgot about that account. I didn't. It had over $300,000 in it. Enough to ruin their retirement dreams if it were gone. While they thought I was struggling at Stanford, I was building an empire. I created an investment blog called ScholarCent that went viral on TikTok within months. The concept was simple: teaching college students how to build wealth while getting an education. My first video, How I Turned $500 into $5,000 During Finals Week, got 2 million views in 48 hours. Bank partnerships followed, then media interviews. I appeared on financial podcasts, wrote guest articles for major publications, and spoke at student conferences about financial literacy. By sophomore year, I'd saved more money than my parents earned in their best years combined. I didn't party, didn't waste a second on frivolous activities. I studied, built, grew, and watched. Every dollar I earned felt like armor against their voices in my head. Every partnership I secured was proof that I wasn't the failure they claimed I was. Every interview I gave was evidence that someone somewhere found value in what I had to say. I kept detailed records of everything. Not just for taxes, but because I knew they'd eventually try to claim credit for my success. Meanwhile, I kept tabs on my family through social media and mutual acquaintances. Mason was still living in the basement, still unemployed, still making excuses for why nothing was ever his fault. My parents were still funding his lifestyle while complaining about money troubles. The irony wasn't lost on me. They called me a leech while literally supporting their adult son's refusal to work. Mason tried stealing my success by lying his way into my professional network, claiming to be my business partner on LinkedIn. He updated his profile to say he was a junior partner at ScholarCent, which was completely fabricated. My old boss from the bookstore, Mrs. Henderson, reached out asking about him. "Hey Emily, your brother applied for our assistant manager position. Said you vouched for him." I replied simply, "He's never worked a day in his life. Ask him what ROI stands for, or what the difference is between gross and net profit." One by one, I quietly closed every door Mason tried to sneak through, destroying every opportunity he touched with my name attached. When he applied to a local marketing firm claiming to have experience in social media growth, I sent them screenshots of his actual social media accounts. Sparse, unprofessional, and clearly showing years of unemployment. It wasn't petty revenge. It was protecting my reputation from someone who had no problem lying to get ahead. The beautiful thing was that I never had to be openly malicious. I just had to tell the truth. Graduation day arrived, and they showed up uninvited, wearing fake smiles and clothes they couldn't afford. I spotted them from across the campus. Quad Dad in a ill-fitting blazer that still had the price tag hanging from the sleeve. Mom in pearls she'd clearly borrowed from someone else. "We're so proud, Pumpkin." Mom beamed with that same cold smile I remembered. "We knew you had it in you all along." The gaslighting was immediate and shameless. Dad opened his arms for a hug like nothing had ever happened. "You called me a leech," I said quietly, stepping back from his embrace. Other families were walking past us, some recognizing me from my media appearances. Dad laughed dismissively, the same condescending chuckle I remembered from childhood. "Oh, Emily, water under the bridge. Look at you now. We're so proud of what you've accomplished." "With no help from either of you," I added, and I watched his smile falter slightly. Mom jumped in quickly. "Well, we raised you, didn't we? We gave you a home, food, education. You wouldn't be here without us." I handed him a small folder from my handbag, the same handbag I'd bought with money from my first brand partnership. "I do have something for you. A graduation gift, you could say." Inside were legal transfer documents. The pension account with all $300,000 was now completely mine, transferred legally and irrevocably. "What's this?" he asked, his smile dying instantly as he scanned the official letterhead. "I took what was mine," I said calmly. "You put my name on it, remember? Congratulations. You raised a leech smart enough to cash out before you knew she bit." Mom grabbed the documents from his hands, her face going pale as she read the legal language. "You can't do this. This is our retirement money. This is illegal." Her voice was rising to a shriek, and I could see the shame and panic in her eyes. "Check with your lawyer," I replied calmly, adjusting my graduation cap. "I already did. Spent quite a bit of money on legal consultations, actually." "Emily, please." Dad's voice cracked slightly. "We made mistakes, but we're family. That money is all we have for retirement. You should have thought about that before you called me a parasite in front of my friends," I said, and turned to walk away. Camila appeared beside me, having witnessed the entire exchange, and handed me my diploma with a proud smile. I looked at my parents one last time. Really looked at them. They seemed so much smaller than they had in my memories, so much more pathetic and desperate. "I'm no one's mistake, no one's punchline, and definitely no one's dependent anymore," I said. And I walked away, my head high, my heart whole, and their entire future in my bank account. A month after graduation I got a certified letter. Not an apology, but a formal legal demand. It was from my dad, written on letterhead from some cheap law office, demanding that I reconsider returning the funds so they could maintain dignity in their retirement. They claimed that taking the money was destroying the family, and that I was punishing them for normal parental discipline. They included a photo of Mason looking haggard and thin, claiming he was now in rehab after his mental health collapsed from the pressure of being compared to me. My mother had written in the margins, "You always had everything, the brains, the opportunities, the scholarships. Can't you show some grace now that we're hurting?" Grace. From people who publicly humiliated me. Who funded my brother's laziness while calling me worthless. I didn't reply to their letter. Instead, I did something that would haunt them far more than any words ever could. I bought their dream retirement home, the lakefront property they'd bragged about for years, showing me pictures and talking about their golden years by the water. I knew the exact address because Mom had never shut up about it during my senior year of high school. The deal was surprisingly quick since they hadn't paid the deposit yet. They just held a spot on a waiting list, assuming their pension would cover the down payment when the time came. I didn't move in or evict any current tenants. I had a much more poetic plan in mind. I hired a custom sign maker and had a beautiful wooden plaque created for the front entrance. Instead of the generic name it had before, it now read "The Leech's Nest," in elegant script lettering. I even had a small metal nameplate made with a quote, "Home of the parasite who made it." 2 weeks after the sign was installed, I sent them a postcard with no return address. Just a picture of the house with its new sign out front. My cousin Jessica, who still talked to them occasionally, called me laughing so hard she could barely speak. Emily, they showed up with suitcases in hand, expecting to move in. When they saw the plaque outside, your dad turned red and your mom nearly fainted. The front desk told them the owner had changed the name last week. I didn't gloat or post about it on social media. I didn't need to. Sometimes revenge isn't about screaming, "I told you so." Sometimes it's quietly proving you were never the problem. I moved to Boston after that and took a job with a startup incubator that specialized in helping women launch their own companies. Every time a young woman told me, "My parents said I wasn't enough," or "My family doesn't believe in my dreams," I'd smile and say, "Then build something they can't afford to ignore." Meanwhile, Mason made one final pathetic attempt to capitalize on my success. He tried starting a mental health podcast called Resilience Rising, positioning himself as an expert on overcoming family trauma. His first episode was titled, "How My Sister's Success Nearly Destroyed Me." I reported it for impersonation and copyright infringement. The podcast was taken down within 48 hours, and his hosting platform banned him permanently. My parents now live in a small rental unit on the outskirts of town. 1 bedroom, no view, no amenities. They're both working part-time jobs in their 60s, with no retirement plan and no financial security. Last I heard, they're trying to contact old friends for financial assistance, creating a GoFundMe claiming their ungrateful daughter stole their life savings. I blocked their numbers, their email addresses, and all their social media accounts long ago. I changed my last name legally and moved to a city where no one from my past could find me. Sometimes the best way to rise is in complete silence, with no forwarding address and no trail of breadcrumbs leading back to your success. The worthless leech they created became their greatest fear, someone who didn't need them at all. Today, 5 years later, I run my own consulting firm helping family businesses navigate toxic dynamics and protect their assets from destructive relatives. I sleep perfectly at night knowing that every cruel word they spoke, every public humiliation they put me through, only made me stronger and more determined to succeed. They wanted to break me down, but instead they forged me into someone unstoppable. The house by the lake still bears the name, the Leech's Nest, and I still own it. Sometimes I drive by just to remind myself how far I've come. The best revenge isn't screaming or shouting or even rubbing their noses in your success. The best revenge is succeeding so completely that your doubters become irrelevant, so thoroughly that they can't even reach you to acknowledge their mistake. Sometimes the people who tear you down are just terrified you'll rise higher than they ever could. And in my case, they were absolutely right to be afraid. Subscribe and let me know in the comments. What's the most savage comeback you've ever witnessed? Remember, sometimes the best revenge is a life well lived in complete silence from those who never deserved a front row seat to your success anyway. If this story motivated you to prove your doubters wrong, smash that subscribe button and tell me in the comments. What's the most savage comeback you've ever witnessed? Also, where are you watching from? I read every single comment. And remember, sometimes the people who tear you down are just terrified you'll rise higher than they ever could.